SS8000 cars. Now today is incredibly exciting. We've had some great days, but today we're going to do the comparison between the 458 Speciale and our new car, which is the 675 LT McLaren. And what I do like about the 458 Speciale is the lack of wings. We've got a small flip at the rear here, which is a changeover from the 458, but in essence there are no wings on it. And wings are fine, but the problem with wings is they do slightly spoil the looks of the car. Whereas I think, and I'm on record as saying, and of course I'm biased, but I do think this car looks as good as any car on the road. You can see that there is a huge rear diffuser, and again I talk about this in one of my other videos, but basically it keeps the car particularly well planted when driving at speeds in excess of 180 miles an hour, which is the fastest we've had it. Underneath the diffuser you've got the active aero flaps, which open at speed to give you maximum speed, and it stalls the diffuser. So therefore you've got the car in what I call slippery mode, allowing it to go every bit as quick as it was designed. Doesn't have the active aerodynamics of the Speciale, but it does have the active air brake, which we covered earlier. What I love about it, lights are all integrated into what is the bodywork really, so I'm not sure that unless they were on you would necessarily notice they were lights. And again, a really deep diffuser to provide maximum downforce, and whether it'll come out on the camera or not, there's lots of mesh here which shows all the workings of the gearbox and the rest of the bottom parts of the components of the engine, which really look fantastic if you're following the car in another car. And again, the same is true here. We've got mesh here to just allow you to see through into the engine compartment. Now clearly on this car you can see there's a wing, and I talked about with the Speciale about, in an ideal world I would rather not have wings, but you have to say that at least this wing goes flat when it's not being used, so it doesn't ruin the looks of the car, although some people would say they actually quite like it in the up position. Be interested to know what you think. And my personal view is I quite like it in the down position most of the time. However, either way, the Speciale is a particularly beautiful car because it had a beautiful base, which was the 458. I think people generally said that the 458 was probably the prettiest car of its generation. The 650S, and in this guise the 675 LT, of course is much more aggressive than the Speciale. It's got scoops and wings and sills and carbon fibre all over it to make it look like it's going to go fast. And we'll talk about fast in a second. But in essence, I think it's quite a cohesive design. And in terms of dramatic effect, this car is much more dramatic than the Speciale is. It just absolutely shouts performance. This is one of the most beautiful looking engines in the world, and the 675 just isn't on it when it comes to the looks of the engine. And if I push this down, you still see a fair amount, I mean there'll be a bit of reflection here so excuse me, but you still see a fair amount of that engine is clearly on display, and my goodness me, doesn't that look good. So everybody can look at it, so when it's parked up or even if it's sitting in the drive, everybody can come and have a peek at, I mean it's only us car nuts of course that are likely to go over to a car and peer through the engine cover, but you know, I mean, I think when it looks as beautiful as that. Now this little carbon fibre implement is for opening the engine bay cover. Now on the Speciale, of course, as you've just seen, you pull a lever and it's on hydraulics and it's still glass. very, very thin glass, but still glass. Here, McLaren make quite a show of this wonderful implement that we've now got to put into a hole behind one side of the engine bay cover and the other side and turn, and then we've got to hold that up and then take out the rod that holds it up, and apparently all this saves weight. Okay, here we go. I almost always get this wrong. Oops, there we go. So we turn that to the right, and I'd say logic dictates that you turn this to the left. There you go. Wow. Okay, so I'm going to put that back in my pocket. Then what I'm going to do, sorry, I'm mucking about here, but basically it lifts, and it is very light. I admit it's very light. Whether it's unbelievably lighter than the Speciale, now this is a work of art, of course, as well. I have to give McLaren credit. Carbon fibre rod for holding the engine bay compartment lid up. Absolutely gorgeous. Make sure you get it into the right hole. There we are, and it clicks into place, and that holds it up. Now, I like the idea of it all, but I have to say it's a little fiddly. Fortunately, you don't need to spend too long in the engine bay unless you're here just to admire it. This particular one, I mean, you can get the Speciale engine bay clothed completely in carbon fibre, whereas I don't. It was just the top of the engine covers and the rear air filter. Here you can see, although it's the bit you can see is slightly smaller area than the Speciale's engine compartment, it's all clothed in carbon fibre, and I do think it looks rather good. Maybe not as phenomenal as the Speciale. I thought the Speciale's engine bay was possibly the nicest looking engine bay I have ever seen. But this is certainly comparable, if not a little more fiddly. We take it down, that comes out, and then you have to be very careful when you bring this out that you don't whack it into that fits there. Like that fits. Just a little fiddly, it has to be said. There we go. So, bring it down. I'm sure I'm making that look twice as difficult as I need to, given this is probably only my second time to open up the engine compartment. And then firmly down on the left-hand side, firmly down on the right-hand side. I think it's always a good idea just to check that it's actually taken. And again, you get a really good view through the in this case through the plastic cover. Although I'm sure you're getting lots of reflections, so how much of that you'll see, I don't know. The Speciale has super lightweight wheels, which are unique to the car. So to keep the rolling mass as light as possible. And if we come back into the compartment, the driver's compartment as I call it, one of the things that you will notice immediately, and these are carbon race seats, but the McLaren 675 LT that we've specified has full carbon buckets, and as you'll see in a minute, they take some getting into because they're much higher sided than the race seats in the Speciale. Also, although there is a bit of a lip to climb over to get into the Speciale, as you'll see in a minute, is nothing like what you have to endure with the carbon top. And then another big difference between the Speciale and the 675 LT are the doors. Now, these are conventional doors. They shut and they open, but it helps you get in and out, if the truth be known. They don't look as spectacular, but in the 675's case, and actually all McLarens have dihedral doors, and you open the doors by pressing on the button here, or you can click the key, which is, it's a nice carbon fibre key, which is keyless go. If you tap the open button twice, the door actually lifts up for you. So inside you can see very driver focused environment. It feels a little comfier once you're in than the Speciale. I think that's probably mainly because of the seats, and there's something about having a carpet rather than an alloy floor that sort of makes it feel just a bit more luxurious. Really like the doors, as I commented on earlier. But the one thing about this car that you can see, which is going to make it much more versatile for me personally than the Speciale, is the fact this car is right-hand drive. I was absolutely convinced when I bought my next supercar it was going to have right-hand drive. Closing up, just take you around very quickly, because I think the shape of this car is absolutely phenomenal. I think it's so fit for purpose. There's really nothing on it that doesn't provide a useful function, and yet the overall cohesiveness of the design is fantastic. It doesn't seem to matter what angle I look at this car from. I think, wow, that looks so aggressive. So I'm incredibly pleased with it. I think that, as I pointed out in the Speciale, we have vents pretty much everywhere to provide cooling for the primary heat exchangers and the secondary heat exchangers, which are at the front of the car. Very powerful engine. Even at half throttle, it feels as powerful, if not more powerful, than the Speciale. It is lightning fast. In fact, I'd say of a measure above the 650 and Aventador and Hurricanes out there, that it almost takes it into the hypercar league. Things I like about the Speciale are the liberal use of Alcantara. I mean, my wife especially is always teasing me about me saying in cars, wow, you've got to look at the Alcantara, because Alcantara is mock suede, but much more resilient and better enduring. I mean, you can see also, I didn't point this out, but this is the same as the standard 458, but I do like it. You can see here, you've got the grills to provide air into the engine compartment behind the rear quarter windows here. So they're there, and then clearly you have them at the back to help with cool the heat exchangers, which I think is nice. So overall, a very driver-focused machine, and absolutely lives up to its billing as the race car version of the 458. I've not driven the so-called hypercars, so really the three best known hypercars are the Porsche 918, the McLaren P1, and the LaFerrari, of course. How could I forget the LaFerrari? But I think you'd find that both on a track and in a straight line, this car would be as fast almost, and certainly capable of keeping up. One of the things that I was astonished by in one of the videos by Alejandro Salomon is in Salamandrin, is he did a straight line race between this and the Aventador SV, and quite frankly it murdered the SV. The SV was nowhere, and the SV is always been supposed to be one of the cars knocking on the door of the hypercar territory. So I think really this car probably only has one competitor right now, and that competitor is the Ferrari F12 TDF. I mean, this car's 0 to 124 is 7.9 seconds. So if you're ever looking at the stats, bear that in mind. That really is hypercar territory. And for that, this car is actually quite good value for money. And compare this with the fact that I've only been 500 of these cars made, I actually think it probably makes a reasonably wise investment decision as well. So we're hoping that'll limit the amount of money that goes out the window when we come to change it. Although right now I cannot think of a car I'd rather own. So it's Ian, at SS8000 Cars, signing off for the moment, but we'll be back with another video of the McLaren 675 LT, and I'm sure of the Ferrari Speciale. Please make sure you subscribe.